can't help but look. Sorry?
You've got to check. I understand. I'd be the same. Am I all right to go yet?
Yeah, that's it. We are live now. And if you have seen me this week, you might have caught the side of my head a few times, because every time we go live, I'm like not looking at the screen. So apologies for that, but I am just checking when we are going live. I don't want to sit here talking to myself.
No, absolutely.
No, that's it. So this afternoon we are joined by the lovely Ali Davis, and we will have a chat with her in a moment. Just want to remind you, if you are watching, give us some love, pop some hearts and thumbs up in the Facebook comments, and do ask us questions as we go along. If there's anything you want to know, if it's not appropriate for me to ask just then, we'll keep them to the end, and I'll make sure that Ali answers your questions. And if there's anything that comes up after, or you see this on replay, don't forget hashtag replay. But if you do watch on replay and you have a question, pop it in, and I'm sure Ali won't mind popping back and answering any questions, or I can always pass them on to her and get you the answers. So do get involved, do ask if there's anything that you want to know, any comments you want to make, anything's resonating, let us know, because it's always good to get that feedback. And just get involved, basically. So Ali has kindly agreed to come along and speak to us today. And she's a best-selling author and female entrepreneur who, after being diagnosed with illness, took a look at her life and realised it wasn't where she wanted to be. After lots of personal development, she set up her first business in Pinterest, and able to manage her illness, and continue to be ambitious and strive for the best she can be. Ali is living proof that you can build a successful business whilst dealing with illness, and she is now passionate about helping other women do the same. Having been diagnosed, and I always say this wrong, so correct me, sarcoidosis?
Sarcoidosis, yes.
Yeah. And hitting rock bottom at the age of 29, Ali invested in developing and growing her skills, and feels passionately that her purpose is now to help other women with invisible illness grow and see the magic in the here and now. Ali is also a brain aneurysm survivor. She was diagnosed with a complex brain aneurysm, and her surgeon had only seen it 5 times in his career. It tells you how rare it was. And Ali had a life-saving 5-hour operation to stent and coil the aneurysm, and hopes that that's the end of her hospital stay. So do we, Ali, so do we. However, it's given her so much more fire in her belly to make the most of every day, to cherish the moments and make memories. You can find Ali in Wales, sheep farming and redesigning her home with her partner and her dogs, Freddie and Bear. Lovely. Dogs. I love how they show up on Instagram.
Yes.
Welcome, Ali. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So, do you want to, that's sort of given a flavour of you as a person and where you are, but what about the business side as well? What's happening there? What was the business on Pinterest, and how is it, how has it evolved to where you are now? Because things are a bit different, aren't they?
Yes. So it would be about, are we coming up 6 years ago now? I was in a corporate role, so I was in human resources. I was climbing the ladder, working all the time, burning the candles at both ends, not even considering self-care or thinking about anything. It was just all go, go, go. And then I had a pain, and then obviously tests, and quite a scary time in that sarcoidosis can mimic cancer. So my first diagnosis was that I had cancer. So that was obviously pretty scary. And then after several months of more tests and diagnosis and things, it finally got diagnosed as sarcoidosis. I probably spent the first year after my life literally changed overnight. I stopped working. I couldn't work anymore. I didn't feel like Ali. I felt like she was a totally different person to what, I was living on the sofa, watching daytime TV, living in pajamas. And I just thought, this can't be my life. So I decided to take some time into sort of learning about Pinterest. I used to use, out of all the sort of social medias or platforms or apps that we have on our phone at that time, I found Instagram and Facebook really drained me, because it made me feel like I could see everyone else living their life and I didn't feel like I was living mine. So Pinterest I could use as an inspirational tool. So I would post, I'd pin little pictures of holidays I'd like to go on, or decorating I'd like to do, and you know, art that I really liked. So I used Pinterest as an inspiration tool, and I thought, well, if I'm using it, businesses on there, then there must be something here. So went away, did a course, did you know, invested in my development and learning all about how to use Pinterest marketing for businesses. And it really became a sort of a passion that I could put love and time and effort in, because my life had changed so much. And because I'd used it as such an inspirational tool, it was something I could easily talk about as being such a great tool for businesses. So that's how I got onto Pinterest marketing. I developed my book and launched that in 2019, which is a Pinterest handbook, basically, all about, if you're a business, how you use Pinterest marketing for your business. And I had clients, and I taught a course and had students on a Pinterest course. And it was all really, really great. But then at the end of 2019, sort of several months after I'd launched my Pinterest book into the world, I obviously had the aneurysm, and having a second thing at the time really sort of knocked me for six, particularly because I'd had such a long stay in hospital, such a long operation, and then since then I've got further sort of, not necessarily complications, but further symptoms that I didn't have prior to the operation. And it just made me realize that as much as I'm passionate about Pinterest, I'm more passionate about talking about how I live every day, how I get out of bed every day, how I try my best to thrive. And also because it was such a life or death situation and very scary at the time. If I hadn't had the operation, I wouldn't be here now. It has made me realize how short life is. So I decided, after going through that I could help other women. So hopefully be a source of inspiration, hopefully be a source of support, and a source of just comfort in that when I had those diagnoses, you know, go back to when I first got diagnosed with sarcoidosis, I didn't see anyone online that was struggling or had illness, or certainly invisible illness, and nobody I could really relate to. So I really want to be that source of sort of, somebody can look at me and go, it's all right, there's other people, it's all right, she feels the same, and that's really how I born this business now, where I really am so passionate about helping other women with invisible illness, and I have a variety of ways that I do that, but that's how we kind of got to now.
Yeah, and when you say you want to be an inspiration, you are an inspiration to a lot of people. I know in the world, in the online business world, and that, you speak to, I obviously don't speak to everybody, but some of the people I'll say your name and they, oh yeah, brilliant. How did she pick herself up from that? And that sort of thing. So, Ali really is living proof that you can have a life after diagnosis of whatever. Because I think that's the key, isn't it? That if you keep your mindset in a certain place and start to see that there is more you can do, or like you don't have to have give up on your life's dreams. You can adapt them, you can change, you can make it happen.
Exactly, and that's not to say days aren't tough. Like yesterday morning I got up and all I did was cry because I felt rubbish, and but I allowed myself that time. To cry, compose myself, and then I was like, right, what can I do today? What can I achieve? And I don't want people to think that I certainly don't want anyone ever to say it's easy for you. I don't want to appear that it's easy for me, because I just have made the choice that I don't want to give up on my life. But that doesn't mean that right now, sitting talking to you, I'm in a variety of different pain. I didn't sleep very well last night. There are all of those nuances as well. So
yeah, and that's it. And I think that is the thing, isn't it? That we can have a new life, but it is a new life, perhaps. It's slightly different to the other one. And So when, I know that I sent you a few questions beforehand, but you okay if we go off script slightly?
Yes, of course.
I've got, as you were saying that, I was thinking, when we get that diagnosis, and I had plenty, and nowhere near as, devastating, although, in our own way, they are, because they're us, they're
relevant, absolutely.
But it was like this grieving period after, like especially the fibro one was like, oh, there's nothing more left. What can I, and it was like grieving the life I should have had, the one that I had to give up, all the friendships and the relationships that seem to crumble, when you get the diagnosis, or because of the symptoms. Did you experience that? Was there a grief?
Totally. And I had a serious amount of therapy to grieve the older Ali. And I've done so much reading about it, and it's something that I do talk about in my community and things. It's amazing, the process. It is like grief. When I look at the old Ali, or the different Ali, she's unrecognizable to me now, and it is like going through the grief of losing somebody, because it is so different. I can't relate. Obviously it's like a memory of my life once lived, but I can't relate to that anymore because it is so different to how I am now. And I think it's something that a lot of people underestimate, is having to go through that grieving process of, like you say, the job you might have had, the relationships you had, the routine you used to have. Like before I could go and work all day, like 8 till 8, and then I could go out and have drinks with the girls. I could come back really late and only have a few hours sleep and do the same the next day. I have to plan. If I'm gonna, like tomorrow I'm having a day out with my family and my niece and nephew, like tonight I have to make sure I've got an early night. I've got nothing in the diary tonight. Like it's literally just read and go to sleep, and I never had to have that kind of consideration for my life before. So totally. And with therapy, I was able to kind of put her in a box and say thanks and goodbye, and then move on to the next one. But it was a huge process for me to go through.
Yeah. I mean, as a therapist, I'd say that, that's what I see time and time again. People that accept that they have to change and then do that grieving do tend to then have a little bit more of a chance of not encouraging, but developing that life as they want it, rather than, if we hold on to the old one. And that's where I remember, like them first few months at least, I think I did come around quite quickly, but it might be because of the community I was in, and my outlook on things as well. I don't know, but so many people, if they hold on to it for too long, it then becomes that's their new identity, and it doesn't have to be, does it?
No.
You can choose who you're going to be.
Yes, and it is hard, like you say, like those first few months I kept saying, but well, it's unfair, and I used to be able to do this, and still sometimes I catch myself, particularly sort of physical activities, or if I think, right, I'm going to do some housework today, and I think, right, I'm going to do all this cleaning, and actually I only get to hoover one room because that's all I can manage. I'd go, I used to be able to do all this, and I do catch myself, but now it's not like a really hard, upsetting thought. It's just like, oh yeah, I used to be able to do this, can't do it now, move on. Whereas back then, back then, it was a really big, like, I can't do this. Who is Ali? What's happened to Ali? That sort of thing.
Yeah. And someone's just commented that the end is sometimes just the beginning. And
totally. I love that. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, the end of one, is every door closes, a new one opens. That's that same thing, isn't it? And that's not just in illness, or invisible illness, chronic pain conditions. That's in everything in life. If we can accept the ending, go with it, do what we need to, and grieving, crying, talking it over, journaling about it, therapy, however it is you deal, make some sense of it. It's like giving it a new storyline, isn't it? It's like narrative of what that part of your life was, and then you can move on a little bit easier.
And now I people laugh when I say it, especially family and that, but I'm actually grateful for the sarcoidosis, not for the pain it gives me, the symptoms and all the stress I've had with it, but I was in a job I really didn't like. I had work relationships that would really upset me. I was stressed a lot of the time. I worked way too much. And if I look back now, I wasn't getting to where I wanted to get, even with the effort I was putting in. And it took me some time to actually look at that as an opportunity for gratitude. But now, you know, I can manage my day when I want to. I can choose who I'm helping. I can choose who I'm working with. I choose what I want to do. You know, when I want to go and get my nails done, I go and get my nails done. You know, whereas before I was very much tied to that corporate world. So the brain aneurysm, I'm still working on being grateful for, because it's still a new thing, and I'm still adapting to the symptoms and the things that I have from that, and the continuation of having two things to manage. And not everyone's going to be grateful for something, you know, like I say, I'm not grateful for the symptoms of sarcoidosis, but I'm grateful that I was able to get out of the job. So sometimes it helps if you can find a tiny chink of something to be grateful for in that scenario.
Yeah. And that gratitude is a really good self-care technique, isn't it? You know, whether it's on the big things, or on the little things.
Totally. Mine is all made up of little things. Yeah, every day I've trained myself to find the little things, you know. So even when I'm on a dog walk and it's hard because I don't feel very well, I'll see the bird in the tree or the autumn leaves, or, you know, and before I never went through life like that. I didn't notice, I wasn't in the moment, and I was never present. So now I always try and adopt the approach of being present and, you know, looking for the small things to be grateful for.
Yeah. And that's a theme that's run throughout this whole week, is, you know, that slowing down.
Yeah.
This morning we said, slow down, stop, smell the roses. But it's like, you know, take off the blinkers, look around, you know, enjoy the ride, make sure that you're, you know, sort of noticing where you are, and, you know, enjoy it for what it is, because, you know, you'll get to your end point. We all do. You know, we all get wherever we're going.
And tomorrow isn't guaranteed, and that's the biggest thing I've learned now, you know, is that, you know, the next moment isn't guaranteed. So you just have to work hard at, you know, yes, we all have plenty of rubbishy things going on. And if you go bigger, the world is quite messy, and there's lots of very sad and awful things happening in the world, and impacts that we're all having on us from cost of living, etc. You know, we've just come through a pandemic. There's so much, but if you just try and be in the present, and remember that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, then it can really help sometimes when life is really challenging.
Yeah, that's it. Do you find having dogs, you know, because this is one thing that really helps me, is my dog, you know, having your dogs, because they are so mindful, aren't they? Yes. They can only be in the moment. They forget so quickly.
Yeah, they do. Like, I'm giving you a treat. Well, I forgot about that treat. Where's the next treat?
That's it. Yeah. And I love it, yeah, because they're sort of like so excited about, you know, the smallest things.
Yes.
You know, you see a feather in the garden, we see a feather and go, oh, that's a lovely feather. They go, oh, look, something to play with. Oh, feather, chase it around for an hour.
It's so true, but also, you know, they do make me get up. You know, I wouldn't go outside, and I mean, I it's absolute routine, get down with the rain at the moment, but I do like nature and I like walking, but they give me a reason to make sure I go and do that every day, however small or however long that may be. But also, like you say, they're so mindful. Like now they're both asleep, touch wood. I'm hoping they'll stay asleep for the call. But they, you know, when I'm not feeling so well and I need to go and take myself off or have a lie down or whatever, they both come and they catch up to me and they're like, oh, it's just time to lie with you then, Mum, is it? You know, it's just, yes, it's very nice having dogs. It is.
Yeah, that's it. And I think they do pick up on those emotions sometimes better than men. Against men, but, you know, that's my experience.
I would agree with you there. Yes, definitely.
They'll sort of come and give you a little, you know, sort of snuggle when you think, oh, I could do with a hug, you know, and you haven't got round to asking for one.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you there.
They do pick up on it so easily.
Yeah, they do.
So instinctive, isn't it? And most animals are like that. You know, most pets. You know, I've had cats that do that. I know horses are really attuned, aren't they? You know, they can be really great at, you know, picking up on your mood and your emotional state. So, you know, animals are another great source of self-care.
Oh yeah, massive. I mean, not everyone's fortunate enough to have an animal. They do obviously take time and money and things to look after them. But yeah, I'm very grateful for my two. They
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
But even getting out to a petting zoo, or finding,
There's so many places
contact.
now. Yeah, you can go and feed a baby lamb or feed, a goat by hand. There's so many places now you can go and do it. And yeah, if you're an animal person, definitely, I think there's nothing better.
Yeah. And you mentioned about being out in nature as well. Do you find that that's, is it the, like getting out in the greenery? Is it the fresh air? Is it the exercise? What part of it is self-care for you? Or
fresh air particularly. So like, for example, it's horrendous weather here now, but I would even tog up, put my hood on, and just try and go and breathe some fresh air. I think if you can be mindful to breathe in that fresh air, it can really have an impact. But I just think as well, nature particularly, so whether that's greenery or, I adore the beach, anywhere really, it's just, it kind of opens up your mind, in that there's the sea always rolls in, or that tree is always growing, or it kind of makes, sometimes it's, especially being with illness, you can get quite insular and just wallow in your own feelings, wallow in your own symptoms. I'm quite isolated where I live, but also since the pandemic, I've things changed a lot for me, being a vulnerable person, and it sometimes is really hard to get out of that little tiny bubble you're in. So nature can, to me anyway, really helps do that. You just lifting your head and looking at the sky, looking at the clouds, looking at the whatever's around you. It's just because sometimes I don't walk that far because I don't feel well enough to walk that far, so I'll go to somewhere where I can let the dogs off, and I can just stand still and look around, and it does help. And then obviously I try and do some exercise with the walking, but
but it's not always about the exercise, is it? That's what I find, is that exercise for me doesn't make me feel safe. It doesn't make me feel energized as such. It exhausts me. So exactly. I would prefer not to do exercise, but a bit of movement, being outside, does make you feel a bit more alive.
Yeah, exactly. That's just summed it up perfectly. And in the summer, when it was nicer weather and whatnot, I could open the back door and I'd sit in the garden with the dogs, and I might have a cup of coffee in the morning, or I'd make a point of going out again in the afternoon. But just then I'm not doing exercise, but I'm just noticing my surroundings, and like you say, watching the dogs, they find everything so interesting and so new, and so just watching them, it's just having that slight different perspective that nature and I suppose fresh air can really help you with.
And I guess it's that perspective is that the world goes on, whatever's going on for us, but also it's so much bigger than us.
Exactly.
When we look at the sea, as you said, you can see the horizon, it's miles and miles away. You look up to the stars at night and think, gosh, it's so minute in this whole universe.
Exactly. And it's like twofold, because sometimes I'm like, what I do teach, it's very relevant, whatever we're feeling. It doesn't matter if you think my diagnosis was obviously more devastating, not at all. Like, everything's relevant to that person and how they experience things. But also, you can get so involved in your own life and your own symptoms and everything that you forget to think about the bigger picture. So like you say, going to outside and looking up the stars or the sea and the horizon, it makes me realize that life isn't guaranteed and it's going to continue however I choose to spend my life. So try and choose to spend it as best as I can.
And that's a huge lesson for any of us, whether you've got any illness or not, isn't it, or any condition. We should all be choosing consciously what we're doing, because otherwise we're just on autopilot and we're not got any autonomy in our life, and we're I don't know, going along with things, end up at the end of life thinking, well, what did I do?
Yes.
I have seen that with some of my older clients before I worked with chronic pain, more of the sort of anxiety or low mood clients. They get sort of a little bit older, and then regret would come in. I wish I'd have done more with my life. I wish I'd have said yes to that opportunity.
And you don't want to do that, for sure.
No. There's some things that we might not be able to do, but there's a lot that we can, and there's still a lot of things that we can take note of and enjoy.
Absolutely.
Even in small doses if we need to.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So do you have a piece of advice that you give to your clients, or your people in your community that sort of resonates with majority of them? Is there something specific?
Well, we've touched on gratitude. So definitely gratitude is one of my biggest sort of teachings that whoever I talk to, whether it's my sister or people in my community, trying to find things just to say, I'm grateful for that. And it can be as small as having a hot cup of tea that day if you're a busy mum and your tea was hot when you managed to get there. Or it can be as big as saying, I'm grateful that I'm not in Florida with the hurricane. It could be big things or it could be really small things. But it's also just looking outside of the box. So rather than just thinking, I'm grateful I've got a roof over my head, I'm grateful I've got a bed, it's kind of like looking at the smaller things. So yesterday, for example, on a walk, I saw a butterfly, and just seeing that butterfly and watching the butterfly, before I wouldn't necessarily recognize things like that, and then gone, I'm really grateful to have seen that. At night I hear owls, and it's only when I've been speaking to more people that I'm like, actually a lot of people don't hear owls at night. A lot of people aren't, I suppose, aren't in a position where they're in sort of a rural area where they have wildlife at night. So I'm very grateful when I hear the owls at night time. So it's that kind of thing. So gratitude is definitely one. The other thing I was sort of talking about is not to be a wallower. So it's easy to be a wallower in that, you put on your pajamas, you get under a blanket, and you don't leave there all weekend. And if that's your choice and you're being intentional about that choice, then that's absolutely fine. But what you have to do is choose to allow those feelings. So like yesterday when I was upset, I allowed it, I sat with it however long I needed to, and then I was like, right, we'll close that door, now we're on to the next thing. So it's not allowing yourself to continually wallow in whatever you're experiencing or feeling, because it helps you to stay stuck, and then it's very difficult for you to come back out or change your kind of mindset and your focus. And I suppose the other thing would be, we've just sort of touched on, is being intentional. So having the choice. Now, I obviously haven't chosen to have my illnesses, like you haven't chosen to have yours, and people haven't chosen perhaps to not be able to afford their energy or whatever it may be, if it's not chronic pain and sort of illness. But you have a choice on how you respond to that situation. And probably only since having my illness have I realized that I have the choice on how I perceive things and how I react to things. Prior to that, I always thought, well, it's my manager's fault, or it's the business's fault, or it's my partner's fault, or I never really thought that I had the choice on how I responded to things. So sometimes now I choose to cry, or I choose to be angry, or I choose to just be annoyed, and that's fine. But also I have, like, use the example of sitting on the sofa. Tomorrow, after tomorrow with my family, I might make the choice that Sunday I need to sit down and just do nothing all day. Old Ali would have been like, you're lazy, there's so much you could be doing, you've got housework to do, you stuff on the computer, you can do this, there's painting to do, whatever. Now I'm making that conscious choice and being intentional about choosing that, so then I don't sit there and tell myself off and say all the things I could be doing. So in being intentional about how you want your life to be and controlling what you can control within your life.
Yeah. And again, those are themes, that we've touched on this week, that autonomy and control, learning what you can control and letting go of what you can't.
Absolutely, yeah.
The biggest frustration is trying to change something that you can't change. You're just going to wear yourself out.
Yeah.
And also that, sort of allowing those emotions, when we need to, because they're natural, they're human, they're going to be there. But, even though, Ali's doing brilliantly with her life, she says, there are times where you're upset or angry. Yeah. We're not going to avoid that just because we're being a bit more positive or we're trying to make some conscious decisions. It is just allowing the emotions as well and going with it, doing what you need to in that moment, however long that moment lasts.
Exactly.
To
I've had conversations with people like, oh, you're always so positive. And I'm like, but I'm actually not, you know. I'm trying to show more of that on Instagram now, in that I don't want people to think, you know, I'm just positive all the time, because I really am not. And I also think that there's a difference between being positive and choosing how you want things to work, or choosing what you want to do. So I can absolutely put positive spin on anything. I'm probably more of an optimist. But at the same time, you know, in the back of my head, I still worry about my brain aneurysm. I know I've got hospital appointments coming up, you know, and if I was truly positive all the time, I would just be like, well, my brain aneurysm is fixed and I'm fine and I'll move on with my life, you know. So I think it's important to be real and honest about those things. And like you say, it's totally fine. We have all the feelings, you know. Don't berate yourself because you're annoyed today. Don't be annoyed because you're annoyed, because you'll just continue going around to being annoyed. You know, allow yourself to be annoyed. It's fine to be annoyed. You know, like sometimes I sit there and I get really frustrated because I just think it's unfair that I've had like 2 things, and before I'd be like, you can't think like that and you're not allowed to think like that, you need to be positive and whatever. And now I'm like, you're allowed to feel like that, you know, you are totally allowed to feel that it's unfair, but we won't stay there. So then I allow that feeling. I journal normally about it, or I'll, you know, make a few notes, or just sit and think with it and then move on. So
yeah. And that's what we do with the rant and reset. You know, we have rant and reset on a Sunday, and it's like a place to offload, just, you know, be who you want to be. Just, you know, it's a safe space to shout if you want to shout, cry if you want to cry, scream. But then we reset, you know, we find a way, you know, like meditation, or, you know, just talking about it, or a visualization, calm the system and come back online to, you know, to the real world sort of thing.
Yeah, the same in the community. We have a thread called Daily Dump, and that is where you can just show up and, like, you know, I've put in there quite often, another hospital appointment today, like, this is annoying, or, you know, why won't these doctors, you know, whatever it is. And it's just having that safe space like you do, where people can just be who they want to be. And, you know, sometimes you might not be that raw and honest with your partner. I'm always mindful of my partner, my family, because I know they've experienced some obviously very rubbish times with me as well. And so, you know, and friends might be different now because of what you've been through. So it's nice to have that place like you do, where you can just show up and be totally how you want to be.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's creating these spaces, however someone wants to, having that, you know, the opportunity to do that without feeling that anyone's going to judge you on it. That's what we worry about, is that judgment from other people, that we're going to be told to, oh, get over it. Yeah, it's ages ago since that happened. Yeah. Or, you know, oh, you know, you should be used to doctor's appointments now. You've had enough.
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't get any easier at the time, you know, with time. It just means that you deal with it slightly differently as, you know, as we move through. Yeah. And it's fine to still feel crap about things, you know, because life isn't always rosy. Yeah. So what about your younger self then? Do you think that you would give yourself different advice to what you had then? You know, what would you want to say to your younger self? You know, maybe the one that was, you know, even before the, you know, so I'm going to try and say it again, sarcoidosis.
It's all right.
You know what? I've been in the medical world for so long. You'd think I could get these. Oh no, it's fine. I think, yeah. I think I just do it on purpose sometimes, put these letters together that don't feel like they've come around my tongue properly.
I know. Yeah, totally. I think if I look back now to younger, even before sort of when I got my diagnosis of sarcoidosis, I would want my younger self to realise just how precious that time at that moment was. I think we get so caught up. You know, I'm thinking back to when I travelled when I was like 18 and 19, and I was so caught up in, like, I'm travelling and I'm doing this thing, and I never really spent time in that moment to be like, Ali, you're in Australia, Ali, you're in Japan, you know. And then as soon as I got back, I was like, oh, well, that's done now. Then what's next? Oh, well, I want to go again. And then it was like, okay, well, I'll just build up money to go again. And then you just get back on this, like, use hamster wheels and all of that kind of treadmill. But it is so easy to get caught up in life and caught up in, you know, lots of big things going on in the world, lots of, you know, things that will be all affecting us in different ways. But I think if I could give any advice to my younger self, it would be to really pay attention to where you are in the moment, and that life is so short. So make the most of like the here and now is my kind of what I say, make the most of the here and now.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, yeah, again, yeah, really good advice, whoever, but, you know, especially if we've got any conditions that are limiting some of the things we are doing.
Yeah.
Make sure we're taking note, slowing down, you know, not just going racing through the tick list of countries that we want to visit, or, you know, for me, it was courses that I wanted to do. You know, it was almost like this academic head was on, and I had to get this done and that done, and I want this title and I want that letters. Yeah, and I was like, oh, for goodness sake, I wish I'd have gone back and gone, you don't need any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. But actually, you know, I wish I'd have gone back and gone, let's just see where we go. You know, it's more fun. You know.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? You know, so it's always like good to think, well, look at my younger self. But, you know, like you say now, it is taking that and being more conscious about it, you know, the slowing down, but not necessarily even the slowing down. You know, some people may not even have conditions or illness, but like have a busy life and what have you, and you know, have a loads of children or a busy job or whatever. But I suppose sometimes at nighttime it's just kind of going, you know, was I intentional today? Have I taken a moment for myself? Can I schedule a moment in for me tomorrow? Like normally what I do is every time I make a cup of tea, I really consciously focus on making a cup of tea. So I'm not thinking about, I got to get back to my computer because I've got you now, or I'm not thinking about I need to walk the dogs or I need to clean the house or whatever it may be. I just try and really clear my mind and focus on my breathing while I'm making a cup of tea. And that's something I've tried to build into my day, because it's something that I make a cup of tea a few times a day, so it's something I can, you know, build into my day, so it kind of stacks as a habit. But yeah, it's just trying to, where you can, take that moment to slow down and be mindful. And yeah.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, I think again over the week we've had lots of different ideas for how to build it in, and how, you know, how that moment can be. So, you know, for you it's like concentrating and being mindful about making the cup of tea. For me, is the breathing between each client and between each meeting, to put like a full stop there, and then I can start again. And, you know, for other people, it's been various different things. Some people have used exercise, some people gardening. You know, it's finding what's right for you.
Yes,
because it's right for someone else, it doesn't mean it's right for everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yes, so we do live and learn, though, don't we? we're going to
time.
Yeah, that's it. I think, yeah, it comes with that. You know, when you're saying about self-criticism and, you know, beating yourself up, I think, you know, as long as we can sort of look back and go, yeah, I could have done it that way, but we don't beat yourself up about it, because that's not worth it either. Yeah, we are what we are. We're where we were. Oh,
yes, absolutely.
So, are there any other ways that you look after your emotional needs? You know, we've talked quite a bit about the three, you know, different areas to concentrate on. Is there anything else that you do, sort of, either generally or, you know?
Yes, meditation. And, you know, I used to be really strict at making sure I did a meditation, like a guided one or on an app or something. And now I just try and look at it as taking control of my breathing and having that moment. I do journaling, and I've developed my own planner, which is all tools that have really helped me, which include like gratitude and my intention for the day. We've said controlling what you can control, so focusing on what I can control, especially being an empath. I find, you know, I try not to watch the news, as that sounds really bad, but I'm abreast of issues, but I can't watch the news all the time because it affects me, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And gratitude, to being grateful, being intentional, not being a wallower. And then another couple which we haven't really touched on is just if it's going to be, it's up to me. And so that's something that I used to always think, my partner can do that, or why doesn't he help me with that? Or I'd be like, oh, why hasn't that person come back to me for work? And now I'm like, if it's going to be, it's up to me. So I choose to, if there's something I'm really passionate about, something that I really want to do, I, ask for support and help where I need to, but I make that conscious decision that if it's going to be, it's up to me. So if I choose a decision to sit on the sofa all day, then I've made that decision. But if there's something more pressing and actually I can manage my symptoms and my fatigue that day, then if it's going to be, Ali, it's up to you. So get at that computer and write the book or do the whatever it may be. Yeah. And the other thing is, it's okay to say no. I never used to say no to anything. And I try not to say no to things that are important to me now, like family and friends and things like that, and events like that. But actually in the past, with my conditions, I have put myself under a lot of pressure to travel somewhere, to be engaged and upbeat, and obviously take part in whatever was happening at the time, and then travel back. And actually, it's okay to say no if you can't manage those types of things. So those would be my other kind of things that I focus on a daily basis. I try and have a bit of a routine, so the journaling, the breathing, being conscious when I make a cup of tea. Music is always a massive thing for me as well. So I always have music, sometimes in my hearing aids, sometimes just on the speaker. It annoys some people that come around, so like, you've always got music on, and I'm like, it's just how I kind of get through the day. I have different playlists for different things and different songs I can go to for different things, but and that is another powerful tool I use.
I when I worked more with low mood and depression, music was always the first thing you give up when you're starting to get low. So it's a good, if you normally have music and you notice that you don't put your radio on, or I was going to say iPod. Nobody has an iPod anymore, but you don't put your music on that day. It's a good job I didn't say my Walkman or something. If you're not putting your music on that day, or you're listening to slower songs than you would normally, slower tracks, and you sort of decide to put all that soppy slow music on instead of what you would normally listen to, then that's an indication that maybe your mood needs a little tweak, and something else be injected, and changing your music taste will change your mood. So if you put upbeat music on, it's going to help you to feel a little bit better, even if you don't at the start. By the time you do feel a lot more upbeat. The other point I think I want to pick up on is the you said about not watching the news, and then there was a little bit of a self-criticism. You sort of think you can be judged.
I'm ignorant, I just don't want people to think I'm ignorant. I'm happy not to watch the news, but yes, I make that choice because I can't deal with the constant worry about the world on things that I feel I don't have control to make a difference to.
Yeah, that's it. And actually, in generalized anxiety disorder, which is mainly a worry condition, it's now the recommended that we do a planner to help people to reduce their news intake. So reading or on TV or on the internet, but news intake can actually just aggravate worriers. So just keep us in that perpetual cycle, because it's a constant stream of negativity. And actually, when we're trying to feel better, we do want to, as we say with all the stuff, you want to recognize it, but you don't want to wallow in it. So exactly the same principle, isn't it? Recognize what's on the news, read the headlines maybe, but you don't need to listen to every news story that day, and you don't need to
get a notification
lunchtime and evening.
Exactly. I get a notification on my phone, so if there's anything obviously going on, I know about it, but otherwise I try not to get into watching it all the time, because it drains me, because I'm one of those people that I want to change the world, but I struggle with the things that I can't have a physical, like if I look at the pictures of the hurricane and I feel so deeply about them, but then I'm like, what can I do about it? Which is why I have to remove myself from actually,
because there's so many causes that would be classified as really good causes, like Ukraine and Florida, and any of the war-torn countries around the world, any that are struggling with, sort of a famine or, we could be trying to do everything for everyone. And Ed Sheeran said, he got asked what his secret to success was. And he said, I don't know what the secret to success is, but I know the secret to failure is trying to do everything for everyone.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. I haven't heard that before. Yeah, no, it's very true.
I was just like, yeah, exactly. You're on a high end to nothing. You're going to fail if you try and do everything for everyone. But so many people with chronic conditions are people pleasers.
Yes.
There's that correlation, and so many entrepreneurs are people pleasers. So, we do need to be mindful that we can't do it all.
Yes, totally.
So, what about if someone wanted to contact you, check out your book, your journal, all the good stuff, your community? It's open at the moment as well, isn't it? So do you want to tell people a bit more about what's actually happening in Ali's world?
Yes, of course. Well, I've got a planner, so that's on Amazon. And if you go to my website, it's alidavis.com, simple. Or if you want to come and follow me on Instagram, that tends to be where I show up more, especially being a sheep farmer as well. So there's some random sort of sheep bits mixed into my life. Normally quite funny things. So but Instagram, all my links are in my bio. So my planner, I developed all the tools basically that I've used over the last several years that help me. So as I said, like a gratitude list, intention, ability to journal, tracking to making sure that I've had water intake and I've got fresh air and I've taken a moment. So that's my planner. And then I have a community called the Here and Now community, and I really put that together because I couldn't find a community like it. So a place for women with invisible illness. And it's particularly something that I really wish I had when I had my first sarcoidosis diagnosis, and then when I felt like another kick in the teeth with my aneurysm. And it's a place for us to come, like we were talking about, have a daily dump, so you can just come and rant about how you're feeling, whether that's good, bad or ugly. You can just show up as you are. It's a safe and open space for us to help, put our arms around others, uplift and inspire, and really motivate others to continue to not be defined by their conditions, their illnesses, whatever they are struggling with. I normally call them invisibilities, but whatever invisibility they are struggling with. We have monthly learn and growth sessions. I know Tina's done one for me recently. We have monthly Hive sessions where I just host a space in Zoom where we can just show up and rant about how we're feeling, talk about a particular problem, ask for advice, help, support. And we have a book club. I share lots of tips and tools about things that I find help me, and obviously continue to try and help inspire others in that platform. So that's what the community is. It's open this week. It's open till Monday. It's just £29 a month. And I just want to hold space for women that need other people to put their arm around them and just continue to strive for their hopes and dreams and not be defined by their illness.
Oh, and where do they find that?
alidavis.com again, and all the links are in my Instagram bio, and if you look at any of my social media at the moment, they'll be there. So but yeah, if you just want one place, come to alidavis.com.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Do you want, are you in the group? Do you want to pop the link underneath the video when we, once it goes out? Because it's there, but once I've uploaded it properly, pop the links in, and then people can just click and rather than typing them in yourself.
Yeah,
it's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm in the group, so I'll make sure I go back and follow up with any comments. Obviously, if anyone's got any questions, and I'm an open book, so you can ask me as any question. Doesn't matter.
That's it. Yeah, and there's nothing there at the moment, but as we say, we'll come back to them, and if Ali does miss them, if I see them, I'll pass them on for you. So thank you everybody for watching. Later on is our last session of the week, 7 o'clock. I'll be here again, and this time on my own. For the first time this week, I'll be on my own. It's the masterclass 5 steps to sustainable self-care. It's a good job I got my Tuesday for that. For entrepreneurs and professionals with chronic pain. So do come and say hi for that one. And yeah, that will be the end of the Self-Care Summit. I have said to you though that they are all going to be in the group for the next 30 days until the end of October. So if you've missed any, do go back and watch them. If you've got questions, ask, get involved, and if there's anything that comes up from them that you think you could do with or you want, let us know. So that's it for now, and we will catch up again at 7. I'm looking to the side again to find my button.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ali.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like and share if you've enjoyed the video.